So good.
Oh, good.
Shot to the heart, and you're too late, darling. You give love a bad name.
Hey there, movie buffs, and welcome to another review of a recent release. The focus of this episode, The Fall Guy. I have to say, ever since the first trailer dropped, I had zero expectations for this movie. The promos promised an action-packed, fun comedy adventure entry, but I've seen many similar teasers that simply failed to deliver on all fronts. On top of that, the ads hinted at plenty of meta-references, a trend that has been played ad nauseum in most contemporary blockbusters. Add to that the fact that I wasn't particularly impressed with David Leitch's follow-up to Deadpool, and you can figure out how I felt about this movie. Still, there were some green flags. Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's chemistry was a staple in all the trailers, and the movie seemed closer to the only Leitch-directed title I actually enjoyed, Atomic Blonde. So I decided to take a chance on the movie, and by the time the end credits started to roll, I was extremely happy about my decision. There's no bigger action star in the world than Tom Ryder, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. In The Fall Guy, we get to meet his stunt double, Colt Seavers, played by Ryan Gosling, who has disappeared from the public eye after a stunt gone wrong almost ended his career and permanently damaged his back. Isolated and working as a valet, Seavers misses his whole life and the thrill and danger of being a stuntman. Fate intervenes as he is contacted by producer Gail Meyer, played by Hannah Waddingham, and asked to join the Australian-based production of Metal Storm, helmed by his former fling and first-time director Jody Moreno, played by Emily Blunt. Once on the set, Colt is informed that Ryder has vanished without a trace, and the film producer asks him to help her find the missing action star. Tasked with salvaging Jody's directorial debut amidst the chaos of Tom's disappearance, Colt embarks on a perilous journey to unravel the truth. As the mystery deepens and tensions rise on the set of Metal Storm, Colt must navigate treacherous waters to uncover the dark secrets lurking beneath the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. I'd say there's no drug more powerful than nostalgia. I mean, had The Fall Guy been released 15 or 20 years ago, it would have probably failed to deliver the same impact, simply because the entertainment landscape has changed so much and titles like The Fall Guy are a rarity. Contributing to this status are three factors: the blockbuster seasonal shift, the decline of big-budgeted comedies and comedies overall, and the diminishing presence of TV to big-screen adaptations. Let's go through these one by one, shall we? See, many moons ago there was a thing called the summer blockbuster season, which started in May and lasted until late August. A time when big-budgeted event tentpoles were released, and there was always a major title leading the charge. But by the late noughties, things started to change, and in the post-Avengers world, the top blockbusters were no longer confined to summer or the short Christmas window. They became an all-year-round thing, and we entered an era I like to call 365 Days of Summer. Original, I know. This meant that the special tentpole status that used to signal all the greatness and fun associated with summer was no more. Then we have the general decline of comedy. Former Amazon Studios head, Roy Price, conducted a study that highlighted the genre's evolution in the last few decades. In 1997, for example, comedies made up 20% of the total US movie market. In 2003, comedies peaked at 21.4% market share. By 2020, the comedic market share went down to a record low of 3.8% before a minor uptake in 2023, which found comedies comprising 6% of the total movie market. Risque comedies that cross the line, such as Tropic Thunder or even The Hangover, are now seen as risky by the powers in place. And with no appetite to push titles of this nature, mainly because of the Twitter intelligentsia, entertainment now follows a new dogma. I'm not saying I agree with Jerry Seinfeld's latest comments, but there certainly has been a shift. Finally, we get to the last point, the TV to big screen adaptation. Between the 1990s and the first decade of the new millennium, there was a glut of TV adaptations. Some were good, some were even very good, and even a handful were actually great. But the large majority were simply awful. These projects were greenlit because studios believed there was a formula behind them, not associated with the plot, that would eventually pay off. These movies were adaptations of TV shows that aired 20 plus years ago. This time frame aimed to capitalize on a lingering boomer nostalgia. These movies typically featured Gen X approved stars and were high concept enough to grab the attention of the video store clientele from the millennial segment. Simpler times. But with streaming and more reliable IP sources, these movies too faded away as we entered the 2010s. When taking all of this into account, The Fall Guy, adapted from the Lee Majors starring vehicle of the 1980s and virtually unknown to modern-day audiences, comes across as a nostalgia trip that doesn't rely on the plot or IP affection, but rather on the whole movie-going experience that was the norm 20 to 30 years ago. A movie that plays to the traditional four-quadrant as opposed to a blockbuster that panders to the modern-day political sensitivities. And all of this elevates Leach's movie from a good solid action title into something that's
pretty good.
And now let me talk about the other highlights actually associated with the production that make this movie a worth watching event. Ever since the Scary Movie franchise became unfunny and predictable, we haven't had a proper comedic vehicle that allows us to switch our brains off for a while and just enjoy the ride whilst taking in all the satire. The Fall Guy brings that satirical spirit back, albeit in a subtle way, featuring direct jabs at Dune, Furiosa, and those god-awful Zack Snyder movies. Beyond that, the movie also pokes fun at modern-day Hollywood conventions like the A-listers who do their own stunts. I'm talking about the likes of Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and Matt Damon, here represented by Aaron Taylor Johnson's Tom Rider. There's also the toxic fake female support chain that exists in the industry, embodied by Hannah Waddingham's Gail Meyer. Also, a dead ringer for the franchise destroyer known as Kathleen Kennedy. The movie even references how indie directors are absorbed by the mass entertainment machine that is Hollywood. Think of Chloe Zhao's post-Oscar win career. On top of that, you have a charismatic leading duo played by Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt who make the story come alive and make you focus on their great acting, entertaining antics, and character arcs, leading you to ignore all the plot holes and required suspension of disbelief. There are also plenty of nostalgia nods to go around, from the blink and miss it reference to another Lee Majors show, The $6 Million Man, the era-defining action pieces of Miami Vice, the skateboard sequence from Back to the Future, and plenty of movie trivia to go around. Add to it the passion from a stuntman turned director, David Leitch, in vindicating Hollywood's unsung heroes and exploring a theme and job Hollywood has always been passionate about and has covered many times. The cherry on top of the cake, a kick-ass soundtrack surrounding practical visual effects. Altogether, they deliver a rare Hollywood blockbuster. My final thoughts on the movie. The disappointing opening weekend leads me to believe The Fall Guy won't be replicating the effects of Top Gun Maverick. And it really doesn't have to, because this is a movie that is meant to be casually enjoyed in the years to come, eventually being praised and cherished. It seems I'm contradicting myself, but see it from my perspective. Had The Fall Guy delivered a $100 million plus opening, we would be entering in a new era where superhero movies, cape shit, and biopics would be replaced by a massification of TV adaptations with dubious quality, like the one we saw in the early 2000s. I mean, do we really need a movie version of My Mother the Car or The Flying Nun?
I don't think so.
On a final note, any movie that has managed to turn what is arguably the worst song penned by Kiss into its anthem, it's okay in my book. When it comes to The Fall Guy, I give this movie a thumbs up. Can't recommend this one enough. And simply put,
I love this film. It had passion and a plucky spirit. Dave, I agree with you. Thumbs up from me.
Same here.
To sum it up, I'm Chainsaw.
I'm Dave.
We'll see you
At the movies.